nature to classify a species. Back then, it was started by Aristotle when he saw seafood, animals, or like shells or fishes. So Aristotle classified these animals, okay, sea animals, and then followed by his students, and then the most important man in classification science was Linnaeus. Okay, Linnaeus, in his book The Species of Plant, it was a starting point for the plant nomenclature as it exists today, ICBN. And also, other than ICBN, Linnaeus also start zoological nomenclature, ICZN. Okay, as it exists today, it was based on the system that exists today, based on the work of Linnaeus. In Southeast Asia, we know that Southeast Asia is what you call it mega biodiversity, due to the location of Southeast Asia near to the equator line. Okay, back then, in today Indonesia was colonized by the Dutch. Okay, the Dutch, other than they took all the wealth like spices or the tin or the any kind of resources, the Dutch also give work, okay, give work to botanists, give work to biologists, give work to the scientists to study species of plant in Indonesia, a species of animals in Indonesia. Or for example, this George Eberhard, he was working under Dutch East India Company. He was working in a place called Ambon in East Indonesia, Eastern Indonesia, an island called Ambon. Okay, in Ambon, George Eberhard had his collection of plant species because he was a botanist, and also he collected, due to Ambon is an island near the sea, he also collected shells. Okay, shells and snail. Okay, sea snail and shells. Okay, and meanwhile, in Malaysia, in Singapore today, we were colonized by British. Okay, like Dutch in Indonesia, what the British did also, they hired biologists, okay, or naturalists to study our species. For example, Wallace, he studied plant species, animal species in Borneo. Di Sabah ni, Wallace yang datang untuk kaji kita punya species. So Wallace came here and study our species. He was hired by British. And then at the same time, Wallace also developed the theory of evolution. So this example of botanical garden in Singapore, and also a collection museum in Singapore also. Singapore Botanical Garden, I went there last year. It was one of the most important botanical garden in Southeast Asia. It is the most established one. Singapore Botanical Garden existed before independence. And we also have for botanical garden, usually they keep living plants. Okay. They also have a museum, Lee Kong Chian Museum. This under National University of Singapore. The museum is under the university, and this one mostly collection of animal specimens. They have fishes, lizards, all kind of amphibians, and insects. Okay, so if you want to study insects, if you want to study animals, you go to Lo Kong Chian Museum in National University of Singapore. And Singapore Botanic Garden also part of the Singapore Botanical Garden. Singapore Botanic Garden is located side by side with campus of NUS. Classification system. We will look into this classification system here. And in this system, we have the basic Linnean system, kingdom, phylum or division, class, order, family, genus, species. Okay. And we have 5 kingdoms, the basic one, Plantae, Animalia, other things, Monera, Protista, and fungi, and the domain system. Domain system much later because it is a lot to do with genetics. In later years, molecular science have been developed. That's why we have the domain system. So these are the kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Sometimes they have subspecies. Okay, so depends lah. Sometimes they have subspecies. So this the example is the system, and then these are the 5 kingdoms system. Okay, you look at the 5 kingdom system. Each kingdom is divided into division for fungi or plantae, but for Animalia we divide into phylum. Okay, these are the kingdoms. Okay, easy to understand. For me, 5 kingdom system is much easier to understand. Okay, the domain system, because the domain system is more to based on DNA, based on molecular data. So in domain you have super kingdom. Here you have all the 5 kingdoms, like the kingdoms of fungi, Animalia, and Plantae included in here. Okay. So you have domain as a super kingdom. There are many kinds. So classification system, there are many kinds. Sometimes it will confuse you. Linnean system was founded by Linnaeus. Meanwhile, phylogenetic was founded much later in 1940 by Willy Hennig. Both systems are useful. Linnean system is more for classifying organisms by traits and their usage, and it is easier to understand. Meanwhile, phylogenetic is more complicated. It needs better skill. So it is also useful to explain. It useful to explain the relationships between organisms. Okay. Today, what is the most important data for classification is molecular data. It is the most important data for classification today. This is the example. If you look at the picture here, so in phylogenetics, birds is closer to dinosaur. Birds is closer to crocodile. Okay, because the common ancestor of these two, they have the eggs with shells. Type of classification, one is artificial, easy one, easy, easy method, based on one or few easily observable characters. But however, this method not reflecting the natural relations. Okay, the system also may place organism that evolution wise they are not closer but in the same group. Okay, for example, they use data as same habitats. Okay, for example, whales and fishes put together. Even though whales are mammal, fishes are fishes. Okay, so it depends. If you look at birds, birds can fly. Butterfly also can fly, but birds is bird. Butterfly is not bird. Butterfly is insect. Even though they have wings and both can fly. So that is the problem with artificial classification system. So we have another system, natural system, type of classification based on overall resemblance, mostly they use morphology, okay, anatomy, biochemical, cytology, and so on. So the faulty, including not related species into the same group, can be avoided. Okay, it also gives clear view the evolutionary relationship between the living organisms. Phenetics. Okay, phenetics, the study of relationships among organisms based on how similar they are. The more similar these two organisms, the more likely they are belong together. Okay. Phonetics can be analyzed by using table and numbers. Okay. It is a much easier method and suitable for beginner taxonomies. Okay. However, the weakness of the system uh, cannot differentiate between homology and homoplasy. Okay, they cannot explain the system, the phonetic system like this one. They cannot explain why birds and butterfly are not belong together. Why butterfly